In the Upanishad, the question was asked, is the idea of God true? Can you demonstrate the truth of it? That is how you are slowly coming to that kind of a question. And the answers are simply marvelous, which have tremendous relevance to our search for the highest truth today in the physical sciences. Now he says, the question is asked by Ushasta, that I want that Brahman. Brahman stands for that ultimate reality of the universe. Brahman. Fortunately in India, this is not extra cosmic. We are not a dualistic philosophy in India. God and the world. World has come from God. From Brahman alone the world has come. That is our theory in the Upanishads. From Brahman the universe has come. In Brahman the universe rests. Unto Brahman the universe goes back. That is how Brahman is just a word. Suppose I use the word X. Yes, you can use it. But the word Brahman in language has a deep meaning. That which is expansive, infinite. That meaning of Brihat means big, infinite. So the ultimate reality is that infinite one. To indicate that, they coined this word Brahman and asking us, don't be carried away by the word. Shankara's commentary you will find, neither the word Brahman nor the word Atman really can express the meaning of Atman and Brahman. These are just words, indicators, that is all. Words, I am quoting a scientist, words are but counters of wise men. They only reckon with them, but they are the money of fools with the language. They are only counters, words. But foolish people treat them as the main thing and run away with the words. That's not correct. So words are but the counters of wise men. We use the word Brahman from that point of view. A very suitable word. Everything infinite. This world is infinite. Brahman from which the world has come must be very infinite. To express that, we gave the word Brahman to indicate that reality. Then the word Atman came. A beautiful word for the human self. Atman, the very meaning means self. The finger pointing to some depth in yourself. That's what you call Atman, the self. The truth in me and the truth in the world. Brahman, Atman. Both are supposition. Both are originally mere presumption, mere supposition. But Upanishad said, I don't want to live on supposition. I don't want to live in mere presumption. Is it true? Is it true? That is the context of this question. Is it true? Is it true? I have heard the word Brahman. I have heard the word Atman regarding the truth of the world, truth of the human individuality. But what is the exact position? So he, Ushasta, puts this question to Yajnavalkya. Explain to me the Brahman which is actually experienced. Can you experience Brahman? That is the question. Yat sakshat. Sakshat means just in front. Aparokshat, directly experienced. Not indirectly, but directly. The word sakshat, aparokshat, two words are used. That's why spiritual realization is called aparoksha anubhuti. Direct spiritual realization. That's called aparoksha anubhuti. Sakshat means in front of you. Sakshat. So really I see sakshat, sun at the sky. So in this way, what is that Brahman which is sakshat and aparokshat, real and true, and not merely imagination, not merely a supposition. Plenty of such things are there. I am tired of them. Is it true? Is it true? I like this passage immensely. Here you can see the critical spirit, critical scientific spirit entering into the science of religion in India. And nowhere else it has happened also. And I often quote a sentence from Thomas Huxley, collaborator of Darwin, a very brilliant mind, clear thinker, agnostic. He said, the most sacred act of a man's life is to be able to say and to feel that what I believe is true. It's not enough to say I believe. What I believe is true. That is the tremendous penalty we pay in the search for truth. You have to investigate, you have to question, Then only when you subject a belief to questioning, you find it as true or false. When it is true, call it a true belief, I live by it. If it is false, I throw it away. What a great challenge he has thrown in that statement. That is the challenge behind this question 4,000 years ago. Huxley was last century. Here is that challenge coming. What is Brahman? You speak of Brahman, you speak of Brahman. Is he subject to experience? Can we realize him? In the Old Testament you find God made some noise in some place and some fire came out. Moses was watching and some word he heard. But God was not visible. God cannot be visible to any human being, that kind of God. You only heard the sound. You will find Bible there. In this way, so many gods, conceptions of gods have been there throughout the world. All of them are subjected to this investigation. Are you true? Are you true? In the early part of the Vedas, so many gods are mentioned. Always, Upanishad took up all of them and said, are you true? Are you true? It says, Yat sakshat aparokshat brahma ya atma sarvantaraha tam me bruhidi. That Brahman, which is the self of all. Tell me that Brahman, which is the self of all. Ya atma sarvantaraha, with the inner self of all beings. That Atman, that Brahman alone, you can experience, because he is in your own self. An extra cosmic Brahman you can never experience. You can believe, but you cannot experience. But if Brahman is presented as the self of all, you can experience the Brahman and check up that it is true. That is the challenge thrown by the sages of the Upanishads, through which they created a science of spiritual development and fulfillment, a science of the inner life of man. Or, to quote a phrase coined by Sir Julian Huxley, they created a science of human possibilities. The tremendous possibilities hidden in every human being. And the most important is to realize the infinite hidden in the finite human body. That science was developed through this questioning and the various answers that came thereafter. At this point, we stop here. We shall continue this next Sunday. Hereafter, this comes deeper, deeper and deeper. Subject to the Atman, unity of the Atman, unity of pure consciousness. Impossible to know the Atman, impossible to name the Atman, beyond name, beyond form, is this wonderful reality. All this subject will come from this point onwards. We shall take them up next Sunday. Last Sunday, we started studying the very, very important section of all Upanishads, and particularly of this Upanishad, Brihadaranyaka, the inquiry into the true self of this human being and its identification with the self of the universe. And this subject comes up through a question by a student. And that question is a profound question. Only in India it has been asked, nowhere else. Man seeks God. Even in the tribal society, in our very primitive state, we have been seeking for God. Something that is immortal, deathless, not like us in this world. That is how they seek the idea of God. And the whole thing is speculative, imaginative. That is God, this is God, give a name to it. In this way, the human mind has been trying to understand the nature of God. They have felt the need for that reality behind this world of diversity. Therefore, the search, mostly imaginative, postulation, conceiving of God. We can see it throughout history. In fact, one of the lectures of Swami Vivekananda in that book, Jnana Yoga, delivered in England, is evolution of the conception of God. These conceptions go on changing. We conceive of God. God must be like this. God must be like that. God must be a wicked, very ferocious person to some people. To some it must be soft, etc. In this way you can study in the history of religion various conceptions of the divine, from the most primitive to the most advanced monotheistic religions, where they discovered one God behind this universe. Primitive people saw many gods behind this universe, a god here, a god there, etc., etc. But in monotheism, we call it one God. Mono, one, theism, God. Monotheism. In the Semitic religions, Judaism, Christianity, Islam, and the earlier Vedic period, you find the human mind coming to this concept of a monotheistic God. There must be one God behind all this universe. And they gave it a name. That name that came from the tribal society in which the name occurred. Jehovah, one name. Marduk, Baal, the Babylonians had their own name. We are also Indra. All the names were there in the early period. In this way, a monotheistic idea of God appeared on the horizon of human religious life. But the question arose, when you come to the world of religion as a science, is it true? I believe in it, but is it true? That question took place only in India. We can go round the world. But that question has taken place elsewhere, only to demolish all God. That's all. When you question God, God cannot exist. It goes away. Because it's a belief. It is a must, a postulate, as we say, a conception. That is all. So you'll find all over the world, we live on belief. Don't question. It is bad to question, irreligious to question. That's what it is said. But in this country, that questioning took place. That too at the highest level. People who were religious, who were in search of the divine, they asked this question for the first time, and they got wonderful answers. That is what is reflected in this wonderful literature, the Upanishads. The human search for the divine, taking a new turn, with a questioning mind, with a critical mind, turning the gods upside down. Are you true? Are you true? If you are not true, if I can't experience you, if I can't see and realize you, I don't want you. In this way, the most critical spirit in the world of religion came in India very early in human history. We are dealing with 3,000-4,000 years ago. What happened then? But the mind of the sages was very critical and intense love for truth. I want the truth of things. I don't want to live on mere words, mere conceptions, mere ideas, mere imageries in such a profound field as religion. That earnestness is the most important characteristic of the sages of the Upanishads. Earnestness in the search for truth, not any fancy or any opinion, a pleasant dogma. They were not satisfied with that. Now, this quality of the mind of the sages of the Upanishads has been highly commended by several thinkers east and west. Even Christian missionary writers, who generally try to find fault with all these things, even they were compelled to give a high tribute to the search for truth of the sages of the Upanishads. One of them I quoted several times before, Ernest Hume. He was a missionary in Benares. That was, I'm telling you, beginning of the century. He wrote a book, 13 Principal Upanishads, translation. There he writes in the introduction, the earnestness in the search for truth is a commendable feature of these Upanishads. What a wonderful idea it is, seeking for the truth of religion. What is the truth of religion? That takes religion to a new dimension. We call it critical dimension. You may have a belief. Do you subject it to questioning? Subject it to a little critical analysis? That is a very high state of human development. In the early stages, we never question. We just take. We just believe. Whatever we hear, we believe. So, the critical spirit came to religion very early in human history in this great country. Even in philosophy, it came first in the Greek colonies. Then it came in Europe, very late in the 18th century, in Kant, the German philosopher, who alone started criticizing the concept of philosophy, the critical approach to philosophy, by asking one fundamental question, and that is, has the human mind the capacity to understand reality, to understand truth? That's called the critical approach in philosophy developed by Kant in the Western world. From that time it is going on, the critical attitude. And science also is critical about what is going on in nature. And then we want to know the truth of things. It's not a question of belief in physical science. So wherever there is this critical spirit, you will find the scientific spirit side by side. We want the truth of things. We don't want mere opinion. We want the truth. Because of this understanding, India made a classification in the world of religion. One is called Mattam, the other is called Tattvam. Mattam means opinion. What I prefer, that's called Mattam. You can have any Mattam you like. But the question is, what is the truth of this Mattam? That takes you to the plane of Tattvam. Tasya bhavas Tattvam. What is the truth behind all this? This subject of a critical approach to religion, by which all Mattams were subjected to a scrutiny. And then they arrived at Tattvam. And that Tattvam made for absolute tolerance in the world of many religions. Religions are many. Follow whatever you like. Follow your own opinion, your own way of dressing, your own way of food. It's all up to you. Your own way of belief is up to you. But don't quarrel with others. Don't fight with others. Because behind all these Mattams, Tattvam is one. Tattvam is one. Therefore, India became the home of harmony in the world of religion, culture, etc. The Upanishads have contributed immensely for the evolution of the Indian mind in these universal directions. So in the Upanishads, you are in the presence of a few critical minds dealing with this most important subject known as religion. It is a universal subject. Every group of people has religion. From the very beginning up to today, even the most highly advanced people, even the great scientists and intellectuals, they have religion. Privately, they all practice some religion or the other, except the most avowed atheists and agnostics. Such a universal phenomenon received this treatment from India, the critical treatment. That is why you read in the Upanishads this particular sentence. The word in Sanskrit for that conceptual absolute reality behind this universe is Brahman. We just gave the name Brahman, just like Jehovah in Judaic language, Jehovah, Allah in Islamic language. They gave a name. We also gave a name, Brahman. But we had a questioning mind. What exactly is this Brahman? How to study it? Is it part of our experience? Can we ever realize it? This questioning never came either with Jehovah or with Allah. It is taken for granted, is revealed, keep quiet, accept it. Very good. We didn't do it with Brahman. What is this Brahman? It means expanding. Brihat means big. Something dealing with the whole world, behind this world. And the first great scientific touch that this word Brahman got in India, which in no other religion it got, is that this universe has come from Brahman. That is the source of the whole universe. Yoni, it is called Brahma Yoni. The origin of the universe is from Brahman. Therefore, you find a non-dualistic approach to the problem of reality. Reality is never two, but one. Only one reality behind the universe, and the world has come from that reality. All the other systems, including all the three Semitic religions, they are dualistic. God and something else, not God alone. God is one, but God and something else making for the world. It has not come from God. Whereas here, this word Brahman became used to consider the origin of this universe. From Brahman, the universe has come. If so, in Brahman, it rests even now. And at the end, when you dissolve this world, where does it go? To Brahman. This unitary conception first came to the mind of the sages of Upanishads, and that is where it comes close to modern cosmology, modern astrophysics, etc. There is a unity behind this diversity. From the world, from the infinite Brahman, the universe has come. In it, it rests even today, and it goes back to it. It is a simple truth in science as well as in Vedanta, with a postulate of a unifying cause behind this universe. Behind the universe, there are not two things, only one. If there are two, again the question will come, and reduce the two to one, then only question will end. That is how unity is the end of all this questioning. The multiplicity is being reduced to unity until you come to supreme unity. Nothing beyond it at all. That's the meaning of the word Brahman in Vedanta. That Brahman was defined in the Upanishads in the most scientific language, which I quoted before also, in the Taittiriya Upanishad, Yato va imani bhutani jayante, yena jatani jivanti, yat prayanti abhisamvishanti, tat vijijñāsasva, tat brahmeti. That reality from which the whole universe has come. Having come, it subsists in that reality. And when you get universe dissolved, it goes back to the same reality. A water is there from which a wave appears, plays for an instant as water, and returns back to the water again. This is how they gave the example of the world in relation to Brahman, God behind the universe, God in the universe, universe going back to God once again. So from Brahman the world came, in Brahman it rests, unto Brahman it returns. This much is even by speculative method they came to this great idea, as modern scientists have come through speculation to the same truth, that there is a unity behind this universe. That unity at some time exploded and became this universe, and it will go back to that same unity, the state of singularity, as they call it in technical language. That is all speculation, and for scientists, speculation is quite enough. But in religion, mere speculative God is no God at all. It doesn't give you any satisfaction. Is it real? Can I see? Can I experience it? That stress on experience comes again and again in human life as well as in the Indian spiritual tradition. Can you experience that Brahman from whom the universe has come? How many? 7,000 or 8,000 million years ago, that expansion took place and the world has come. Can I go there and find out what happened then? That Brahman can I realize? This question comes again and again. Astronomy today is trying to find out that earlier stage of this universe, just after the first explosion, before all the differences of elements and energies have not come in that primordial state, how the universe was. And they think probably in the distant depth of space there are various stars which belong to that category. They are trying to get information through radio astronomy, etc. Now it is purely speculation. They can go on speculating that way, this way. So if that is God, it becomes merely a speculative God. A speculative God has no meaning at all. With a little questioning, you can demolish that God. That question came here. Is it really Brahman true? How do you know it is Brahman? At that stage came the Upanishad, taking up the earlier developments of thought and put this wonderful question. Is Brahman, if it is the origin of this universe, that Brahman must be found in our experience also, because the whole world has come from Brahman. Then came the discovery. It is there in every dust particle. It is there in every piece of matter. It is there in every living being. It is much more there in the living human being, where you find greater manifestation of that primordial divine reality. We therefore coined two words. Brahman is of the nature of consciousness, Chit Sarupa, that Brahman. I am also Chit Sarupa. I am also consciousness. I can also see. I can also understand. So a spark of Brahman is in me. A spark is in you. This idea came for us because that Brahman was defined as of the nature of knowledge. What is Brahman? The Taittiriya Upanishad defined it. Unlike the modern astronomers, it is not. To them it is only a piece of matter, highly condensed and dense. That is called the primordial matter. But for Vedanta, that Brahman is of the nature of pure consciousness. It is Chit Swarupa. So in the Taittiriya Upanishad, the word Brahman was mentioned and comes this great proclamation. Brahmavit apnoti param. The knower of Brahman attains the supreme, because Brahman is the supreme. From Brahman the whole universe has come. And so this great proclamation, the knower of Brahman attains the supreme. Then what is Brahman? Then comes the definition. Satyam, Jnanam, Anantam, Brahma. Brahman is Satyam, truth. Jnanam, knowledge or consciousness. Anantam, infinite. That is Brahman. But that is far away. How can I know that Brahman? Immediately comes the next statement in the same Taittiriya Upanishad. Yo Veda Nihitam Guhayam Parame Vyoman. In your own heart, in the innermost cavity of the heart, that Brahman is pulsing in you, in me, in all. Because we have all come from that Brahman. If we have come from the Brahman, Brahman is present in every aspect of the world which has come from Brahman itself. The cause is present in the effect, in every sense of the term. If this earth is nothing but a condensation of solar radiation is present everywhere in this earth, in you, in me, in all. So this logic went on in the direction that Yo Veda Nihitam Guhayam. Try to realize that Brahman pulsing in you as the self of consciousness. I. That wonderful element. In a piece of matter, it is not evident. It is there also. In a living cell, it is just evident, but very, very minute way. As you ascend in the organic evolution, you find this consciousness becoming more defined, more clear, and more a center of power. And human life, you find that consciousness in a definite form. I. We have consciousness of the world, we have consciousness of ourselves. Self-awareness. To describe this, the word Atman was coined in Sanskrit. Atman, self. A reflexive pronoun. Whenever you say Atman, finger goes towards some center in your own being. Himself, oneself, means towards the center of one's own being. So the word Atman came into the picture. That infinite Brahman pulses in you as a bit of this Atman, consciousness, which drives your body, mind together. All the sensory system is energized by that spirit of consciousness that is within you. We also had the notion that we are just like a machine. This body is made of various material elements. They are joined together and made a wonderful machine, body and the sense organs. We had that concept also. But the Upanishads, when they went deeper into the subject, they found this body-mind complex cannot explain itself unless there is a principle of intelligence behind it. That principle of intelligence is what makes for the movement of the body-mind complex. We call it the Jiva, the Chit Swarupa Jiva. That is the intelligent principle within us. And this knowledge is sought after by physical science today, both in physics and biology and neurology. Can we explain the body purely in chemical and physical terms? Yes, said 19th century. Yes, says many scientists, even the 20th century. But no, say many scientists today, you can't explain the whole human behavior in terms of mere physics and chemistry. It's not a machine. There is some principle behind this machine. This is slowly being discovered in modern science. I quoted the famous book, The Intelligent Universe, by astronomer Fred Hoyle. He calls it the intelligent universe. Without intelligence, you cannot explain this universe. This is the beginning, coming from astrophysics, but coming from neurology. I quoted Wilder Penfield, the late Director General of the the Institute of Montreal Neurological Institute. There he said, when we studied the brain and the operation of the brain, we found there is need for an operator behind the operating machine. Without a mind, you can't explain the behavior of the nervous system and the brain. This is the beginning of a tremendous new investigation going on into the subject, so that intelligent principle is there. If so, if it is here, it is also there. If it is not there, how can it come here? And if it is here, how can it cease to be there? Something can come only from something, not from nothing. If intelligence is found in the universe, intelligence was part of that cause from which the universe has come. These are all simple logic which every scientist will accept. Therefore, that primordial reality, Brahman, was of the nature of intelligence, and that was slowly coming out in evolution, first from organic, the living cell, then getting clearer as you come up to the human level, and you find wonderful ideas, evolution in the human being. Our intelligence has capacity to understand the world, to change the world, something unique about it, and we can understand ourselves also. We turn our attention towards our own inner self. What is my true nature? We can ask that question. Intelligence does it all the time. In this way, we discovered Brahman of the nature of pure intelligence, that Brahman pulsing in you and me as the Atman, the self. It is that subject that is taken up here, where we leave off mere conceptual ideas of God. I want the experiential idea of the divine. If Brahman is merely conceptual, it has no meaning for religion. If Brahman can be realized, then only it is worthwhile. Take any religion you like, whether it is Judaism, Christianity, Islam, non-Indian religions. There, all the serious students of religion wanted to experience God, not merely to believe in God. They are called the mystics. They don't speak of mere belief. They experience the divine. But their theology doesn't explain the nature of that experience. Naturally, the theologians will suppress any effort to realize the divine. All the mystics had to suffer in all these religions. Only in India, the mystic was honored. He's the first one who say, I don't merely believe God, I've experienced the divine. He is highly honored and respected in this country. Those beautiful mystics, Islamic or Christian, who suffered persecution from Orthodox religion, if they were in India, they would have been honored. Why? Because of the Upanishads. They converted a conceptual God into an experiential God by a deep understanding of the subject. That is what you get here. This very question, this student who is asking this question is of that nature. He was fed up with all these various conceptions of God. Some say it is like this, some say like this, etc. They are confused. Is it true? Can we know it? Can we realize it? And therefore, he put a question in the language which we studied last week. Yat sakshat aparokshat brahma ya atma sarvantaraha tam me vyachakshva. Please explain to me that Brahman which is immediate and direct, not a faraway conception. Pratyaksha, just in front. Yat pratyaksha and aparoksha and sarvantara, who is the inner self of all. In everything it is there. That Brahman, because I can experience that Brahman, because it is myself. The self in me is a spark of the divine. I can realize through myself that infinite Brahman. So comes this concept of the divine within all of us, a spark of divinity. This experience made our sages proclaim this truth as the greatest truth. The Shvetashvatara proclaims it as the greatest truth, Shrinvantu Vishve Amritasya Putraha. Swami Vivekananda goes into ecstasy expounding this verse at the Chicago address. Listen to me, O ye children of immortality, addressing the whole world. Vishve, people everywhere, have found a profound truth about the human being. We are children of immortality. Listen to me. Shrinvantu Vishve Amritasya Putraha. Not meant to any community or a sect or a group. For all humanity. I have found a profound truth about all humanity. What is that? There is the infinite man behind the finite man. This little self of ours is not the whole thing. There is something infinite about us, immortal about us. Amritasya Putraha. He called us therefore children of immortality. That Brahman which is immortal, this Atman which is immortal, we are that. That is a wonderful teaching coming from that Upanishad. It is there in all the Upanishads, but in some of them it is given in one form of language, another form of language in some other Upanishad. And so, this wonderful teaching came, that this human being contains that Brahman from which the whole universe has come. Something amazing. Why? Because that ultimate reality is indivisible. It can happen here, it can be there, it can be there, and yet it is not divided at all. It is infinite. Like space cannot be divided, so also the infinite Brahman cannot be divided. God cannot be divided. It is indivisible. Therefore present in every particle, in everything in this world, in you, in me as well. The word Atman came, Antaratman came. Antaratman means inner self. Self, inner self, these are the various words. Atman, Antaratman. Can you realize it? Yes. How can you not realize your own Atman? You are that. What is there to separately realize as an object? The discussion here, in the context of what we are going to study, this subject will come. How can you make an object of something which is always a subject and never an object? Consciousness is always a subject and not an object. You cannot see consciousness like seeing a cow in front of you. That language will come later on. Therefore, this Brahman can be experienced because it is our own self. At the back of our body-mind complex, we have that infinite Atman. So we are in it, only we are not aware of it. And we don't care for it. Why? These sensory organs are going out all the time. It has no time to think of this. It wants to see this world of sight and sound. Very busy with it. Go ahead. Go ahead. But a time will come. This question will come to you one day. But what am I? I'm asking what is the world, but what am I? What is my dimension? At that time, this question will become serious to you. You will go in for it. Upanishads become your infinite guide in that direction. That state has come today to the modern world. After studying the whole world, the Western mind today is asking this fundamental question. What is my own true nature? What is this consciousness that is within me? Is it a product of mere chemical and physical fusion in me? That's what many materialistic scientists will say. Is there something better in it? Now this is a profound question in physical science. At the top level, frontier of science we can call it today. This subject. And where science has stopped, Vedanta begins. This is its own special field. We have something special to tell you. That's why that sage uttered, Shrinvantu Vishve Amritasya Putraha. Listen to me, O ye children of immortality, all over the world. Vedahametam Purusham Mahantam. I have discovered an infinite man behind a finite man. Infinite man, infinite center of consciousness behind this tiny little mind and body of man. Aditya Varnam, luminous like the sun. Tamasap Parastat, beyond all darkness and delusion. Tameva Viditva Adimurtimeti. By realizing this truth alone, can you transcend death and delusion. Nanya pantha vidyate ayanaya. There is no other way. There is no other way to perfection. Now this is the great message coming from the Upanishads. In this particular Upanishad, this study is undertaken, this departure from speculative religion to experiential religion. speculative philosophy to experiential religion. Many people in the beginning of the century from Western countries wrote, India has no philosophy, only religion. When you talk of seeing God, experiencing God, some mystical experience, it's all religion. Philosophy is all speculative. And brilliant speculators were there in Europe, including Kant himself. Highly speculative philosophy. But we have philosophy speculative. But we don't end up in speculation. Speculation must end up in realization. That is why we always have the concept of jitnyasa, investigation, with a view to anubhava, realization. Therefore, they call it religion. And today, that word religion has got a new significance in this human life. The greatest thing is to realize your own true nature. Whatever I may do with the world outside, all must lead up to this discovery of my own true nature. I am not a creature among creatures in this world. It's a profound focus of value within me. In fact, all value is centered somewhere in my system. I must bring it out. Then only values can come. They don't come from nature. Now all these questions come up today, and in this context, when you study the Upanishads, you can see what a revolution in thought the Upanishads initiated 4,000 years ago. A real revolution. From mere speculative philosophy and religion, you come to experiential religion. If Brahman is the self in me and you, I can realize that Brahman. What a beautiful conclusion it is. It is my own self. But now I don't know anything about it. Why? I am tied up with a tiny body organ complex. I am tied up in it. So I know only a little self in me, with a little light burning here. That's all what I know. I don't know its infinite direction. But when I become free from this bondage to my organic system, then I see my own infinite dimension. What a wonderful thing it is. We think it is small, it is petty, it is nothing. But when you realize it in its true form, you realize how infinite is this human body, this human child lying on this little bed. It looks very flimsy, but within it is an infinite energy pulsing there. That is a great discovery of the sages, by which something great happened. All gods and goddesses in heaven became secondary. This human being became primary. The greatest god and goddess, everything is here within this human being. Ya Devi Sarvabhuteshu Shakti Rupena Samsthita. The energy of the divine is in you and me as our energy. We have to realize it here. So this kind of change came, the dignity of man, the uniqueness of man. Man contains the divine within himself, and he has the organic capacity to realize this truth. No animal has the organic capacity. The divine is there in every particle of the universe, but they have no capacity to realize. Only the human being has this capacity to realize this truth. Turn it in that direction, you will realize it. That's the language throughout history, from the time of the Upanishads up to Sri Ramakrishna in this country. Understand this truth. Sometime or the other, you will have to challenge this question, the mystery of man. Mystery of the world, science can help us. Mystery of man, we have to find ourselves by our own efforts. In this Upanishad, you get a story of this transition from theoretical to practical aspect of religion. How to realize the truth, not merely believe in it. We never base religion on belief in this country. That's why there is no persecution of unbelievers. If you place only belief, every unbeliever will be persecuted. Belief is secondary. Experience is primary. Therefore, persecution of unbelievers was very, very minimum in this country. Can't say it was not there. Those who don't know the main aspect of life, they will certainly have some narrowness in them. But we don't get a sanction for it in our tradition. Everybody has his own right to believe as much as he or she can. Live without belief also. I tried, I couldn't achieve it. You can do so. There is no harm. They won't be harmed by our religion and society. That is our national tradition. That's our national wisdom. Today many of us do not know that national wisdom. So we become a little more fanatic